Testing, testing. My mic's on. You might notice my computer looks a little different. Let me... Oh, good. I'll be right back. Okay. Oh, good. My token expired. Perfect. Thanks, Restream. Oh my god. Give me a second. So I've got my main computer. I guess I can move this down. Okay, so new computer. Let me launch ZBrush. Actually, hold on just a second. I need to move some of this stuff around here. Go ahead and pin this to my start. We'll launch ZBrush over here, and over here, let me log in. Always perfect timing. Just a second. I'm going to run chat on my laptop here. And okay, what do we need here? That in, okay. Alrighty, got chat up. It's on my laptop. So today's going to be kind of a weird one. I just got a new computer and I'm doing a little bit of setup, but we'll go ahead and use that as morning. Thanks for showing up. So, setup. First thing, OBS is only capturing 1920 by 1080, so I'm going to stay away from the bottom of my screen here. So I'll have to remember that. I'm getting a new setup for my monitors here, so I'm kind of in an awkward transition phase here. So, you know what? No, that's fine. Okay, so first of all, when you just installed ZBrush, this doesn't have any of my custom stuff, so we're going to be setting up a little bit of custom stuff today. I'm going to go here to this little gear, and I'm going to go show if news updated. Apparently, news must have updated, so I'm going to go ahead and close that out. And here's ZBrush 4.8. Now, I don't have any of my hotkeys or any of my custom menus here. If you want my custom stuff, let me get that going. You can go to my Gumroad or QBrush page. It always defaults to the wrong Gumroad page. Thanks. I'm going to go ahead and post that here. If you go down to the very bottom, and again, you don't have to use this. It doesn't really matter. You can make your own. If you want to make your own, go to the Intro to ZBrush Part 2 on my YouTube channel. Although now that YouTube's kind of changed their stuff up. Let me see if this, oh, okay, that'll link correctly. I'll link you here to my playlist channel. And if you go to Intro to ZBrush Part 2, that'll walk you through custom menus and all that good stuff. There you go. Yeah, I got a new PC, so everything is brand new. I guess I don't need these on here. Let's go ahead and empty my recycle bin. So basically, let me go to my downloads here. I need to extract some stuff. So I basically have my laptop set up, I have my server up, so I can go from my laptop to my server to this computer if I need to copy files. I try to copy everything I can think of. I thought transfer.zip, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and extract there. Oh, you know what? I also need to install 7-zip. I'm a little bit more used to that. This will work though. Okay, no problem. Thanks for showing up, everybody, and I hope the tutorials are working. Let me make sure, okay, you guys can see me. I got that set up at least. And then, okay, and I'm just trying to get oriented on my screen because I'm using 1920 by 1200 screen over here and then my laptop over here. So, also, if you guys have any monitor recommendations, let me know. I'm trying to think of if I need like two. This thing has, so I have a NVIDIA 1080 Ti, and that has 3 DisplayPort links and 1 HDMI. So I think I can do, I've been looking at like the 38-inch monitor, but then I'm like, well, that's really just like 2 19-inch monitors next to each other, but it is like 4K resolution. But then if I'm going to record stuff, I can just record like in the middle and then have extra space on the sides. I don't know if I figured that out. Okay, while that's extracting, let's look at these specs. Let me go to my computer here. So, not local disk C properties, this PC properties. What do we got? We have an AMD Ryzen Threadripper 1950X 16-core 32-thread processor at 3.4 gigahertz. I think you can go up to 4.0 gigahertz as well if you wanted to push it. It is liquid cooled, so you probably do that. 128 gig of RAM, 64-bit operating system, pen touch support, and like I said before, Windows is activated. And a GeForce GTX 1080 Ti with system information. Got the latest drivers, I hope, maybe. Total available graphics looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, I don't know. Oh, there we go. Dedicated video memory, so 12 gig GDDRX 5X. Something like that. So we'll be testing that out over the next couple of years probably. But in the meantime, I need to get this thing set up. So I think I've got all my stuff installed correctly, but we'll see how this goes. Let's see what else we got. So we got the chassis, motherboard, processor. If you go to my, if you want to actually see it, let's do that. Let me see if I can do this without. Go to my Twitter page, and oh, I'm live. Okay, right here. So there's the main gear I have set up. We got that. We got that. I don't really need that, I suppose. So, all right, let's get ZBrush up and running. So I've got ZBrush here, but again, I don't have, and this will be good for setup too. So if I go over here and I go to Z plugin, and I go over here, I don't have any of my cool Z plugin stuff that I use all the time. And I also don't have my custom hotkeys set up or my custom menu, and that's kind of a deal breaker. So let's go ahead and close out of ZBrush here. I'm going to launch another window here. You know what I need in here? I need a, let's see if I can pin this to my start. Fine. Whatever. This PC. Thank you. There it is. Okay, so, this is nothing to my quick access here. I need to have C, so let's see. C properties, this is a 2 terabyte Samsung SSD. That's a C drive. So C program files, Elemental, Pixel Logic, ZBrush 4R8, and I'm going to be in here quite a bit, so we're going to go ahead and save this location here. So we'll just do 4R8, and we'll just drop this right over here. So now we can go to ZBrush 4R8, and this is where we're going to be throwing some stuff. Another place we're going to be throwing some stuff is under C, Users, Public, Public Documents, ZBrush Data. I'm going to be going in here a bunch. Not a bunch, but often enough where I need to kind of save something over here. This is where your quick save stuff is going to end up. So if you didn't have any recovery files or your quick save files, that's where that's going to show up. And Z plugin, Z startup, config, custom, config files, ZBrush. So that's not where the Z startup is going to go. Okay, so we're going to go to ZBrush 4R8, and we're going to start copying some stuff in there. So we've got our transfer folder here. And there's some stuff I need to copy over. I just grabbed a bunch of stuff in my downloads. So hopefully, Twitch TV Tab mic. I need to I need to put that in there. Let's go ahead and choose Photoshop CC for my PNG. Actually, no, we'll escape out of that. We don't need to see that. Oh, really? Let me see. Desktop, mic auxiliary, settings, properties. Is that better? Sorry. Okay, so I don't even know where that was picking up because I didn't know I had a microphone attached to anything on my computer. Cool. Oh, too loud now. Let's see. I'll turn that down. That better? Microphone auxiliary. Cool. Perfect. Did you customize PC components yourself? Meaning, did you pick the hardware? I did not. This was shipped to me by AMD. So they picked the hardware here. All right, so let's see. So we have, I'll just start here at the top. So we have brush presets in here. These are the brush presets I want to start up when I start up ZBrush here. So what we're going to do is go to our ZBrush 4R8, Z Startup, brush presets. And in here we just have a brush icon sample. I'm going to grab all of these because I use these all the time. And I'm just going to move those here. And then we have miscellaneous. This is going to be my Z Startup macros. Miscellaneous. I think the only thing I move in here is my polished polygroup border here. And then Z alphas. Okay, these are just a bunch of Z alphas. So that'll be, it won't be Z startup, but it'll just be under the Z alphas folder. And we'll just go ahead and copy all these into here. Let's skip those files. That I can install later. Zplug 64. So underneath ZBrush 4R8, that'll be under Z Startup, Zplug 64. Now a bunch of these I already have. Really all I'm looking for is the newer ones. And I could also download these from Pixelogic, but since I already have them copied over, we'll just grab them real quick. So nanotile textures, panel loop presets, Scale Master comes with it. ZBrush to Photoshop already comes with it. ZRepeat it, and I think there is a Clean Tool Master. There we go. So now I need these folders here. We'll wait, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab Clean Tool Master stuff, Nano Tile Texture stuff, Panel Loop Preset stuff, and ZRepeat it stuff. Now that I have this, I'll go ahead and move these over. Perfect. Anything else in there? No, I think we're good. Zplug 64. Now Z Startup is where the config files are going to live. So let's see, Z Startup. And that might be over here in ZBrush Data. Z Startup. Okay, so under ZBrush Data, so see users, public documents, ZBrush Data, Z Startup. This is where all the config file stuff goes. So under here, we have Gizmo 3D config. We'll go ahead and just replace all this stuff. And then custom language. No, we don't need any of that stuff. Hotkeys I definitely need. And custom user interface, I suppose we can go ahead and just copy that over here. Okay, I think we're all good. This is all just stuff I'll install later. Okay, so now that we've got all that copied over, let's go ahead and launch ZBrush. I'll get a drink. I'm doing good, thanks for asking. Yeah, exactly. I don't know where that mic was coming from. A spy mic. It might be. A weird computer. Or you know what? Maybe no, it couldn't have been a Logitech mic. I really don't know. Or there's not a mic on my monitor, I don't think. Anyways, okay, so let's make sure our Wacom works. Sorry, this is kind of a weird start, but you know what? We gotta start somewhere. Again, I'm gonna kind of stay away from the bottom. I suppose we could kind of match this up here so that we can kind of see a little bit better. Usually when I'm recording stuff at 1920 by 1080 on a larger monitor, I'll just leave this open, but you guys won't see. Well, basically, I'll just show you, and you'll just know it's there. Matte cap, these two matte caps, and skin shader and snake hook I'll use occasionally. But now we're off to the races. Oh, you know what we don't have? We don't have any files to work on. All right, I'm going to rely on you guys to tell me what to work on. I have one thing lined up, and that's something we did on my Pixelogic channel. If you want to check that out, and I'm sorry, I'm using a trackpad, which I'm really bad at over here. So on the Pixelogic channel here, I'll link you guys to that. I stream on there on Tuesday mornings. Oops, paste. Oh, I'm stupid. It'd be helpful if I used the keyboard on my laptop to paste stuff. There you go. So there's my Pixelogic channel. We stream on there Tuesday morning. I stream on here Thursday mornings. I'm going to be skipping a couple mornings coming up soon. I'll let you guys know exactly when that's going to be through all my normal channels here. But let's see. Polished product group borders, is there a link where I can get that macro? Yeah, let me send you a link to that real quick. And we'll also talk about how to do that manually. It's not terribly difficult, but it is nice to have that macro set up because I use it just enough. Drive here. Transfer. Yeah, I need a better place for this so I can just send that out a little more often. Jeez. Huh, maybe I don't have it. I could have sworn I did. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Basically all it's doing, let's go ahead and do this real quick. So we got a sphere, no, let's do, yeah, sphere's fine. So we got a sphere here, go into edit mode, and you know what? I don't need lightbox here. I use my comma key. So we're gonna do a little bit of preferences, config, enable customize, hold down Control Alt, just drag any of these things off here you don't want to have on there, and then go back into your preferences, config, just disable customize, and then do a store config, and that'll store your configuration. So we'll go back, I'm going to choose the matte cap gray that you guys can't see, but all it is going here to matte cap gray. And now we're going to do polish polygroup border. Let's go ahead and make polymesh 3D. Let me move this over real quick. That's too big. Okay, so we're going to go over here, hold down Control Shift, go into slice curve, and we'll just kind of slice a polygroup border in there. In order to polish this out, actually, you know what? Let's do something like this. We'll do a mask border. So let's see how this is kind of jagged. One way you could alleviate that is go into subtool here. No, go into geometry here and simply choose edge loop masked border. So before I unmask this, just do edge loop masked border, and that'll cut a nice border along there that'll be fairly clean. And then if you want to clean this up, all you got to do, if it's on a circular object, you can do a polish by features, close circle, and that'll just kind of polish that line out so it's just nice and crispy. Let's go ahead and turn our lines off here. We'll do fill. However, if you do have details over here you want to maintain, you're going to want to mask this border first. So in that case, you're going to go down here manually to mask by features, polygroup border, no, groups. There you go. So you can mask by groups, and then underneath masking, you can also go, if you want to, like grow the mask a little bit, invert that mask a little bit, and now that everything is masked with your details, and then this line is available to you, now you can go here to polish by features and just polish that line out. That's really all it's doing, and then you have a nice smooth line through there. But you don't have to go through edge loop mask border if you don't want to. You can just go through here and mask this, Control W, and then with this you can do a mask by polygroup border, invert that mask, or basically grow mask, invert, polish by features a couple times, and there you go. now it's a polished polygroup border, and now that line is a little bit straighter. So that's the manual way to do that. If we do it through this thing, let me see, macros, polish polygroup border. Yeah, that's basically what it's doing, just a little bit faster. It also it does border and groups, and it also might be doing deformation, polish by features, or it might just be running a polish. If you do polish by features closed circle, what that's going to do is maintain your form. So if we go, like, say, down here to I just grabbed the snake hook. So if I go down here and I do polish by features closed circle, it's going to try and maintain that volume. If I do open circle, it's going to just completely go nuts. But that crease is going to be smooth as heck. If you go through here and you slice this, now you have 3 polygroups over here. Now if you do a polish by features, it's going to keep all of those lines crispy. So that's just a cool way for you to start polishing stuff. One's going to maintain your overall volumes, and then one is just going to completely remove your volumes, but it's really going to polish the heck out of those features. Everybody get that? Let's see. Hold on just a second. Scroll. Okay, is there a way I can... Cool, do you have any videos on how to use UV Master? Yeah, I do. Under YouTube channel, we go into my Gumroad, I think it's Intro to ZBrush Part 2, where we go heavy into UV Master, but I don't think that's for free on my YouTube channel. But I do have, under my live stream highlights, they're probably kind of a little bit buried. We can go over some of that today if you want to. It's fairly straightforward. Let's grab something fun to work on here. Let's go into Load Tool here. Oh, you know what? I don't have any of my fun stuff. Okay, while we're talking about that, let me copy a big old file up. Give me a second here. So we're going to go to my server. I just want something to work on here. Whoops. I don't have any of my base bodies or any of that stuff. Bear with me. All right, I'm going to grab the commander really quick, and we can kind of start doing some stuff on him. Let me see, ZBrush, date modified. There we go, body, refine 27, and files, transfer. Copy. Okay, so I'm going to copy that up. So we'll get to that in a second after that's done copying. I don't really have anything planned necessarily for this stream. I'm still just copying files over. I am going to show off one thing, not show off, I'm going to go over that a little bit. Let me grab a piece of paper here. And we're going to do... Okay, so we can go over some of that while it's done copying. In the meantime, let's go ahead and do a preferences, initialize ZBrush, and we'll get started fresh with one thing we kind of went over, which was, if we go over here to our cylinder 3D, I'm going to drag that out, and we're going to make a kind of a frill. Here, I just want this archived on my site. So if I go in here and I do a matte cap and I just do a cylinder 3D, I can go down here to initialize and change the cylinder. Usually what I'll end up doing is just hit make polymesh 3D, and then I'll go into geometry edge loop and hit delete loops so that I get rid of those extra lines I don't need. And now I know this thing is going to be right down the middle of my world. If I turn on my floor, you're going to see that's how we're oriented. Let's go ahead and make this Z forward, so that blue line is forward, just so I usually work Z forward in space, just a little bit easier for my brain. I suppose we can move this up a little bit. If you ever don't want that floor to snap with you, just go to your draw menu here and change that elevation to 0, I think. And now the floor will kind of stay put. Or, you know what, it probably just stays. Maybe it's -1, I forget. Oh yeah, snap is turned on, so maybe 0, and then snap. Not snap sides to mesh here. So get grid snap equal to
snap off maybe, I don't know. Okay, so we have our cylinder here, and I'm going to do a frill that basically loops like this and then loops down to another cylinder. Let's go ahead and squash the cylinder just a little bit. I'm going to hold down Control, and we're going to drag out a copy. And I'm going to move, whoops, and then I'm going to move this copy over a little bit. So I don't want it to cross over the middle, but I want it to kind of get close, because basically this frill, and you know those Victorian frills like Queen of England or you know the Lord of the Manor would wear, and it would keep the fleas off his body, I think. So basically this will come this way, and then this will swoop around and not quite meet, and then this will go back up, and this will repeat that that shape. So what we're going to do is get rid of the extraneous stuff we don't want. And if we're going to be mirroring this thing, I guess what's left over here on this side doesn't matter. But what we don't need is all of this here. So I'm going to go ahead and do a geometry, modify topology, delete hidden, and then all this stuff in the middle here we don't need, delete hidden. We're still keeping this little ring here. And then on this one, what we're going to do is this is going to swoop down and pick up right at that midpoint, let's say. So I'm going to go ahead and delete hidden on this one, and then Control Shift, and we're just doing Control Shift visibility, delete hidden on this one. Now, if I go down here to my display properties here, and we turn on double, you're going to see, okay, now I can see both sides. However, when I connect these two, I want these faces, see how these are facing out? Now they're facing in. That's not going to work for me. So what I'm going to need to do, I'll turn on double, I'm going to grab all of this one, turn off double, and I'm going to hit flip. So now you're going to see I'm flipping those faces, so now when I connect these two, they'll behave nicely. I can bridge this a couple different ways. I can go into my ZModeler brush, BZM, hover over an edge, bridge to bridge edges, and do this one. And that's just going to do a straight line. If I was so inclined, other thing I could do, and since these are both the same polygroup, I can go over here to QMesh polygroup all. I can pull out a little thickness, and now I can go through here, and I can go delete a single poly, and then I can delete another single poly, and now I can bridge two holes. So now I can go over here to bridge two holes, I can click here, and now when I pull, I can add in resolution and also add in a little curve. Let's go ahead and turn on polyframe so we can see what we're doing. There we go. So now we can kind of match that up and also give a little bit of curve to this like so. Again, I don't want to cross over that midline, but I think this will work. I'll hit Control W, and now what I can do, and the Control W just makes this all one polygroup, and now I'm just going to go to group by normals. Actually, I didn't have to hit Control W to do that anyways. So now that I have this here, I think that'll work, and then I'm going to repeat this over. Actually, as I repeat this over, I probably don't even need this here. So I'm going to go ahead and Control Shift drag over that with Alt, and then delete hidden. And now I can either bridge these two edges, or I can just do a quick close holes, and then hover over this edge and do a delete edge. Oops. There we go. So we got our basic shape here. Cool. Keep asking your eyelids. Okay, or keep asking your eyelids. Keep asking your questions. Get over there in a second. Okay, so now what we want to do is rotate this thing around and also match it up. Oh, you know what? We have a little bit extraneous information, because if this is going to, or we'll just mirror and weld this. So I'm going to turn off my floor. If I mirror and weld this now, it's going to mirror the negative quadrant to the positive quadrant. So I'm going to do a deformation. So over here in your deformations menu, mirror, mirror and weld. And now I have this one piece. We're going to repeat this piece all the way around in a circle. A couple different ways to do that. We could do an array mesh like this. And you could go like repeats and then offset in the X amount like so. And then you could use one of your deformers, like a bend curve deformer, to wrap this in a circle, but it's going to kind of stretch them in a way that I'm not going to necessarily like. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is do offset of 0, which, oops, I got two keyboards, it's throwing me off. Offset of 0 here. I'm going to hit rotate, and we're going to go rotate in one of these amounts. I'm not quite sure which one it is yet. I'm going to do that with my transpose line. So I'm going to hit Y to go into transpose mode so I can get access to this. And then you're going to see when I hit transpose, I'm going to get a little yellow dot in there, and that is adjusting my pivot. So I could go to my pivot and adjust it through here, or with transpose turned on, I could go through here and grab this little yellow circle in here and just move this pivot out. So if I move the pivot out here, and then I start doing rotate around, the X amount, it's going to rotate this way around the pivot, not what I want. If I do the Y amount, it's going to rotate this way, that's what I want. And of course, Z amount would do that way around the pivot. So not what I want, but also kind of cool. So the Y amount, we're going to go ahead and do 360. And then I'll go ahead and move those around. Now you're going to see if I was to bridge these two, it'd be a very flat bridge here. And also, you got to kind of decide if you want these things to be thinner or thicker. The good thing is, because this is just an instance, we can still use our transpose line. So if I just move my transpose line, we don't have to reset that here, but we can kind of thin this out. Actually, let's go out of transpose mode, and I'm just going to use this transpose on this object. And you can use your gizmo, but since we have our transpose line out, we can go ahead and do that. So we can kind of thin this out a little bit if we want to see, okay, these are getting thinner, but now it looks like we can fit a little more in there. So I'm going to go to my repeats here and just drag that to the right, and we'll kind of get those a little bit closer. Now I want to kind of bend this one so that it kind of plays nice. So I'm going to hit W and then hit Y again to go back into gizmo mode. And with that pivot set right there, I'm going to go to my bend arc. And I'm just going to, oh, you know what? I don't want to bend arc the entire thing. I mean, I guess that'll work, but that's a little bit weird. Let's turn off array mesh here, and let's hit delete. And okay, so in the middle here, I guess that'll work. Let's see, bend arc. There we go. And now we can do. I want to bend it so that it's kind of flared out at the front and then not so much in the back. If I turn on array mesh, now you're going to see these things are updating. So it's getting a little bit wider in the front and a little bit thicker in the back. So if I kind of adjust these, that's what I'm trying. I'm just trying to straighten that line out here in the middle. I think that'll work. So let's go ahead and say accept that. And we're off to the races. I could fit possibly even one more in there. Let's do a repeat of 21. 22, 23. I'm not looking for anything perfect, but I'm just trying to get these squashed up so that they look a little bit more realistic. Now I can go ahead and bridge those together. Now, ZBrush has a cool feature. So see how we have a little peach polygroup over here and a peach polygroup over here? When I go to make a mesh, since I have extrude turned on, it'll go ahead and bridge those for me. I'll have to bridge this middle one by myself, but that'll go ahead and bridge those automatically for me. That's just kind of a feature. If you ever make mesh and it's bridging things you didn't expect, just turn that off. So we'll go ahead and say make mesh. Oh, you know what? We can just do hit close, and that'll go ahead and close that last one for me. So now we have our little mesh here. I think that's looking pretty good. So if I want to go ahead and redo these polygroups, because I don't want like just these weirdo peach polygroups sitting there, just go back into your polygroup menu and do group by normals. Max angle 45 should work. And now we have an inner polygroup, an outer polygroup, and a inside polygroup. So now that we have that, what we can do is we can go to our geometry crease menu, and we can do crease PG. That'll crease our polygroup. So now when I hit D to go into our dynamic subdivisions, which is under geometry, dynamic, we can do D and shift D to turn that on and off. So now we can kind of smooth this out, but you're going to see like, oh, it's kind of a little too crispy in here. Again, this is where we're going to go into like a smooth subdiv of 3 to make sure they're nice and smooth. And then we can go over here to a panel loops, smooth subdiv, and then a crease level. So we have a smooth subdiv of 3, we'll do a crease level of 2. So that'll keep it creased up 2 subdivision levels, and then it'll uncrease on the 3rd. In fact, we probably do a crease level of 1. That's a little bit much. So we'll do Shift D, and I'm going to drop in some control loops here. I'm going to go to Insert Single Edge Loop, and we'll put in an edge loop right here, and an edge loop right here. And if you want to, you can also do it on the inside. And if you ever don't want to do a face thing and it's grabbing your faces, just go over here. Instead of doing delete, we'll just say do nothing. And now it'll be a lot more likely. You could also turn it off for points if you want to. Now it won't accidentally do any face operations. So now when you hit D, that'll kind of maintain that. We get a nice soft fall off. And there we go. We've already made this into real geometry. So at this point, let's go ahead and grab our commander. Give me a second here. Let me move this down here. Let's see, sign in. And I'm just looking for my file station here. There we go. And let's go to transfer. And date modified. Body front 27. There it goes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and download this. Boom, got it. And we'll use this real quick. So we'll go ahead and load tool. It's a big one. And really all I need off this guy, I don't need all of him, I just need most of him. There we go. So now we got that set up. Let's go ahead and grab his main body here and we'll do delete other. And I'll go ahead, we need 2 arms on this guy, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a mirror. Let's go ahead and drop down to subdivision level. Oops. Mirror. Mirror and weld. There we go. And now we can go ahead and append. Or we can also make this into a brush. So we can append this and just move it around, or we can grab this thing here. And I'm going to drag this onto my character. I can either drag it from the top down or from the side, or you can do both. So let's go ahead and hit B, create insert mesh, new. And I'll go to the side, we'll hit B, create insert mesh, append. So now we've got both in there. So now we go back to our character here. We can either start from the top of our character, and we can do the top down one. And you can just drag this one out like this. If we turn on X symmetry, that'll make sure we just drag out one straight down. And now it's just a little bit easier to size and position than trying to finagle those things. And then we can also squash this thing down and drag out copies if we want to. So fancy. Okay, also what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Control-Shift, grab a little piece of him, Control-Shift-A, which is visibility, grow all, and I'm going to make him all one polygroup, Control-W. Let's turn off the line here. And now we can do split hidden. And now we've got his ruffles all in their own thing. And now I can go through here. I can use the move brush. I can use deformers. I think the move brush will be okay. Let's go to preferences, edit, turn off align cursor to surface here. And we can just kind of move this thing around a little bit. Alrighty. So that'll be what we start with. And for UV Master, we'll do some more fancy things. Cool. So we've created that. Now I'm going to go back through my list here. We're going to start with the UV Master, and let me go ahead and write down some more questions here because we got time this morning. Let me scroll back up. Sorry, I'm so slow. I'm working on 2 computers here, and one of them has a trackpad. So let's see. Multi-map exporter. Eyelids for animation. That's basically just concentric rings. That's the thing about being a character artist is I don't sit there and make base meshes every day, all day long. I've made 2 base meshes in my entire career, and those have been reused. Basically what we do when we have a ton of characters is we'll use one base mesh, and we'll use like WrapX or Wrap3D or Projectile in ZBrush, and we'll just move the perfect base mesh with all the perfect UVs we like into the position of all the different characters, so we can share blend shapes, so we can share UVs and textures, and you can just swap out through different meshes and stuff. So I don't sit, I mean, I can give you a really quick breakdown, which would be, let's get somebody a little bit simpler here with just a head. You know what? Oh, you know, I don't have it copied over. Dang it. Okay, we'll just grab him. And these are fine too, I think. In fact, let's grab Nick Zuccarello's tool here. I like his. Topology. So if we turn on line here, you're going to see for the eyelids and stuff, it's just, let's turn off his eyeballs. It's just concentric rings around here. He might have a little bit of an overlap. Well, no, yeah, just concentric rings. So basically when you retopologize a head, generally speaking, this could change depending on the project you're on, but it's concentric rings around the orifices, so the eyeballs, orbicularis oculi and orbicularis oris here, all the way around the mouth and even the nostrils. And then once you connect these things together with mostly quads, this stuff back here doesn't matter. This stuff in here doesn't matter unless you're going to be doing a lot of weird ear wiggling animation. I mean, I say it doesn't matter, but you're going to want to keep it mostly quads like Nick did here. But at the end of the day, concentric rings around your orifices, and you should be set up for animation for most purposes. Let's go ahead and go to our quick save here. We'll load up the C project. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. Sculpt lips with Dynamesh, but without making them stick together. Yeah, we'll get into that. So Dynamesh mouth bag. You missed 25 minutes. You probably didn't miss too much, Hattori. We did a lot of ZBrush setup. I just got a new computer, so you're going to see a little this main gear. So we mostly just did setup for the first 20 minutes. Let me see what this link is here. Yes, yeah, exactly. I like that Victorian ruffle thing. Thank you, Daniel. Which I'm a Nightbot might have killed that, but yeah, we just did like a little ruffle thing. Why is it 720p? I think that's just what it outputs for most of the streaming. I'm streaming to 3 different things, so no. Yeah, Facebook will downres me, but I need to get that. I need to get that set up. Now that I'm on this Threadripper system, I can probably run a couple different versions of OBS. We can stream to 2 different things. Right now, we're just going to Twitch, Periscope, and YouTube. So if you're seeing comment or if you're hearing comments that I'm talking about, you don't see, that might be why. Yes, this work is being done on my new system. In fact, if we want to test something out real quick, we can take this. Let's go ahead and do a render, external render. Let's see if my KeyShot bridge is set up. I might have to install my license here under downloads, KeyShot bridge. Yay. I also have KeyShot 7 installed. So that's cool. Okay, we don't need that. Is there a way to not have this open every time? I guess not. Okay, so again, I understand you guys can't see the bottom of my screen here, but if we go over here to our CPU usage, we're going to see 2, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 30, 32 cores. Like I said, all running at 3.4 gigahertz, I believe. And since this thing is liquid cooled, I could probably push it to 4 if we ever wanted to kind of test that stuff out. So that's cool. So this thing will render plenty fast. If we wanted to do a little bit more intensive stuff like skin, anything that's translucent tends to be a little bit more intensive, and things that use caustics and stuff. See how fast that resolves. Also adding information here. So if you go into the rendering settings here, shadow quality, ray bounces, product. So we can go over here to like product. We can go here to custom if we want to get into caustics and stuff. But this is, you know, pretty high poly. Let's go to view, heads up display. So we got 5 million triangles in our scene, and it's doing a pretty quick resolution, or defining my object here. Let's go to, if we wanted to, we can make him glass and really, or liquid and stuff too. I need to set this up as well. Let's go to our plastics here, and I'm going to do hard oh, another one they just came out with for KeyShot 7 is the cloudy plastics. That's really cool. So on this one here, let's go ahead and go to our scene, and we'll go ahead and turn him off. I want to play with this cloudy plastic. I've been meaning to. So under plastic cloudy, we'll go ahead and make this plastic cloudy circle purple. Now, if this is a NURB surface, I could tessellate this, but you're going to see when I brought it in, it looks a little bit, it's fine. It looks a little bit rounded here. So what I'm going to do is, and this is also cloudy, so it's basically doing a little bit of translucency on our material here. So it shows transmission here. So it can kind of, as the mesh gets thicker, it'll be What am I looking for? It'll be more cloudy. As it gets thinner, it'll be less cloudy. Really cool, but you're going to see it's kind of faceted here. So one way to fix that in KeyShot is just to click on this, go into scene mode here, click on this object, right click, and do edit geometry. And we're going to go to edit normals. And I'm going to go ahead and do calculate vertex normals. So I can go ahead and smooth those out, hit apply. And now those normals will be nice and smooth. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so is it possible for you to make someday a stream focus on fur and hair, also another day about cloth? I've gone over that. If you go to my Pixelogic stream, I go over a bunch of hair techniques on that one, not necessarily fur, and that would be, I would say, if you want to do hair and fur, hire a team to do your hair and fur for you, because that stuff is tedious. But there's at least, if you scroll all the way down, I think it's episode 5 there, I go over a bunch of hair techniques and eyebrows and eyelashes and ZBrush hair. I use Geo to Maya hair to control my game res cards a little bit. For cloth, if you go to my playlist here and you go to live stream highlights, or hell, if you just go to my playlist page, there's a ZBrush to Marvelous Designer. I don't do any cloth in ZBrush unless it's like really form-fitting. I do all my cloth in Marvelous Designer. I don't have Marvelous Designer installed here. I was kind of waiting for Marvelous Designer 7 to come out, so I might hold off before I install that, so that's on my laptop. So I don't think I'll get into that today. Oh, as a closed version and open version of eyelids, that would just be, making sure you have enough rings around your eyeballs and then just masking and collapsing. And then storing that as a blend shape, or in ZBrush's case, a morph target or a layer that you can swap between, probably a layer. To set a rig and animation. I have riggers that do all that stuff. I wouldn't be the guy to walk you through that, unfortunately. Cool. Hey, everybody. Thanks for showing up. Yes, this is the Ryzen Threadripper machine. Just got it installed, so we're kind of playing around with it a little bit. It is possible to extrude an edge with ZModeler, just not a single edge. Single edge extrusions can sometimes lead to non-manifold geometry. I'm glad my ZBrush bridge worked. So what you'll end up doing is, go ahead and Control N. So if we go over here, let's just do a polyplane. Make polyframe, make polymesh 3D. And on this polyframe too, if you wanted to go in here and just reconstruct, that'll simplify it and then you can delete higher. So in order for me to start extruding edges out of this thing, all I would do is just QMesh polygroup all, just to give a little bit of thickness. And it also makes it a little bit easier for me to see when I snap to orthographic views. And now I can just go through here and just use QMesh as my edge extraction or my edge movement. If I want to, I can move this up and just extrude edges that way. If I want to ever get rid of any of the polygroups or just have a single-sided plane again, then I would just go over here to group by normals, isolate this top one here, delete hidden, and now I'm back where I started. I can just do an uncrease all here. So not ideal if you wanted to just say extrude edges out of here, but with thickness, I can just do that again, QMesh polygroup all. As long as I have a little thickness, let's go ahead and flip that. You can just keep extruding edges or extruding edges this way. Whoops. There we go. I think my Wacom pen I need to brush it out or something. Seems a little bit ham-fisted. Maybe it's just me working. Yeah, that RAM will come in handy when we start rendering. Yeah, and if you do, you can extrude edges. That's a good point. So you can extrude, these edges here. It's just going to do just going to kind of pull out like that. Now, if you didn't want these, while you're dragging out, just tap Alt. That'll give you a new polygroup, and then you can just go over here to delete polygroup all. So as you're extruding edges, you can just be deleting this stuff in here. And I guess you could bridge those. Let's try. Let's see. Yeah, we can bridge edges here. Kind of do some of this kind of modeling. But again, it can be really, all it would take to make this non-manifold geometry is to have this closed, and now you have some really nasty stuff going on in here with these points. So yeah, extruding edges, I usually just use QMesh. I know, not a perfect answer. ZBrush might have a better answer, but cool. Let me see if I have any information on that. The motherboard is an MB ATX Asus X399 Zenith. Processors AMD Threadripper 1950X, 16 cores, 32 threads at 3.4 gigahertz base and 4 gigahertz boost. The processor cooler, closed loop liquid cooling, main gear EPIC 240 supercooler. The memory is Kingston 128 gig, HyperX Predator DDR4 3000 quad channel RAM. And I'll update the specs when I get around to that too as well. On my Twitch channel, I'll have my specs and also a new workspace setup we'll go over. So we'll be going over hardware stuff for a while. Extruded single edge is a single face because on extruded, ZBrush connects with the other edge. Yeah, and if you are, instead of doing QMesh, if you wanted to, let's go ahead and do insert single edge loop here, and then bevel edge loop complete. And then if you didn't want these things snapping together, what you can do, instead of doing a QMesh single poly or polygroup all, you can go to extrude single poly, and that'll extrude these faces. So now these ones won't stick. If I was to go over here and QMesh a single poly, that's got that sticky feature, which is totally useful. I love the QBrush stuff for that reason. But you're going to see these ones over here that I extruded, those aren't going to stick together. But we can go through here and QMesh that out and QMesh this out, clean it up, and then yeah, all that good stuff. Cool. Thanks for showing up. And I mean, we can look at that real quick too. So let me see, we did this properties, more, open file location. Really, we don't have a properties in here? Come on, Windows. Really, really, really. I want those properties. Jeez. Yeah. So we'll be playing, like I said, we'll be playing around with this more as we go. In fact, if we do Control-Shift-Escape, let me see. Task Manager, more details, performance. That's all of these. And is there a way for me to do CPU, change graph to logical processors? There we go. There's all my threads running. And then if we double click that, that'll keep those down. So anyway, we'll keep an eyeball on this sometimes when we're doing performance specific things. I did not hear about Crysis's nano suit. Would you plan to give a tip on the model these kind of muscles in ZBrush? If I had to guess, if you go to my, I mean, I vaguely remember Crysis's suit, and I think it would be very similar to something we've done the making of already. If you go to actually my channel or Pixelogic's channel, if you want to see the making of her tech suit, let me go ahead and grab her really quickly as well. That's a good idea, and I'll go ahead and grab Pickle Rick while we're at it. So streaming. So we're going to go to streaming, date modified. We'll grab Pickle Rick and our ZBrush female. Sorry, I should have had these already copied over. All right, I'll let those copy. Okay. What else do we have? What else do we have? I wish I could read my writing. Oh, UV Master. Okay. So let's go ahead and do delete that. And we'll go back to our guy. And we're going to make him even more fancy than he already is. So we're going to alt-tap him, and we're going to go ahead and duplicate him off. I'm going to hold down Control, and we're going to mask lasso, and we're going to mask out a little shirt for him. So I'm going to go to solo mode, go to the side, and he's obviously seen better days. So I'm going to maybe put a little shirt on him this way, and then go to the side here, and we'll put a little shirt on him this way. So this would be, like I said, a skin-tight shirt. If it was a loose shirt, I would just be doing it in Marvelous Designer. We'll go ahead and give him a shirt like so. Let's go ahead and Alt-drag here. He's kind of got a weird shaped neck. Like I said, he's hurting a little bit. So I'm going to hold down Control. We'll go back to Mask Pen, and we'll clean this up a little bit. If we want this to kind of dip down in the back, we can just unmask this. And if we want to sharpen up these lines, just hold down Control-Alt, and that'll sharpen up those mask lines. You can also go to your masking menu. And then back here in the back, we'll just go ahead and unmask here. So now I've got a little shirt on him. I'm going to hit on polyframe here, turn off our line. If I hit Control W, that'll give us a polygroup for just a shirt area. Control Shift click to isolate that, and then we're just going to geometry modify topology delete hidden. Again, if you want this menu along with me, you can go to my Gumroad page, scroll to the very bottom, you can install that. Earlier in the episode, we installed that, just putting in our Z startup. So anyway, we'll go ahead and put our lines back on. So this is a very dense mesh. We're going to go ahead and simplify this down. So let's go down here to our ZRemesh. And we're going to do target polygon of 5 is fine. Adaptive size, we can just drop that all the way down to 0. We just want nice even quads. We don't need to keep groups or anything. And we have X turned on, so it'll be symmetrical across the X-axis. And we'll ZRemesh this. So this is going to go from 827,000 points down to 5,000-ish. And I'll take another look at that. So there we go. Okay, so that's down to our 5K. If we want to keep lowering this, all we got to do is just, I mean, you can do half, or you can type in another poly count here. We're going to do half ZRemesh, half, half. Go down as low as you feel comfortable with. And now that we have this, we can see that, okay, there's our shirt area. If we go into transparent, you can see it a little bit better. We're going to be making this thicker, but before we do that, because right now what we can do is we can go ahead and just do QMesh, polygroup all, and we can just pull out a thickness. It's like, okay, yeah, it's a shirt, I get it. But I really don't want to deal with these inside edges. That just is going to be a pain for me. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cap all these holes. You can just run a close holes if you want to, but I'm going to go through here and I'm just going to cap them. So close convex hole, and we're just going to cap these like so. Because again, I don't want to deal with inside skin thicknesses. Now, if I want to make these all one polygroup, I'm going to Control Shift click those and then Control W. Okay, so now at this point, what we can also do is go into our geometry crease menu, and we can do a crease PG. So as I subdivide this thing, it'll keep these nice and crispy. However, if we turn off solo, you're going to see it is kind of still sitting inside his body. So I'm going to hover over this face here, and we can hold down Shift. Well, we don't have to hold down Shift. If you want to just Q-mesh this out, you're going to see it's going to Q-mesh and also leave a ring here. If you just want to move it along its surface normals to start Q-meshing out, hold down Shift, and that'll just kind of push along its surface normals there. And now we can start making some slight variations here. Like we can pull this down here, and you could also move this stuff around before you committed to capping or skin thickness or anything like that. But I think that'll work. And we'll go down here. We'll make this not quite such just a little belly shirt. There we go. This is also pretty, like I said, pretty skin tight. You can even still see his muscles kind of built in. If you wanted to smooth that a little bit, you can just isolate this poly group here. So you're going to see we're just going to isolate this. Now again, if we do polish by features open circle, it's just going to like polish the heck out of this. So in this case, what I might do is instead of doing a polish, you could do polish close circle and just tap it. And that'll just kind of polish it a little bit. Or more likely, I would go down here to the deformation menu. Let's do a quick save. And I would do a smooth. So you can just kind of drag this up, and that'll kind of smooth out your geometry a little bit. It'll update as you go, so you can kind of just dial in exactly how smooth you want it. And that'll be a little bit more realistic. So now we can go through here, and we can go into our clay brush or inflate brush or whatever we want to do. We can kind of just make this fit on the outside. So why am I doing all this? I'm doing this so I can do UV master. We're going to get a little bit fancy with our patterns here. So we'll UV master this real quick. Alrighty. So we've got this. So now remember, I did go in here and I did do a crease polygroup. So as I start subdividing this, we can get some more detail. You can hit D to see what it's going to preview, but I want to sculpt on that. So I'm going to go out of preview mode by Shift D, and then we're just going to hit Divide or Control D. Now we can go through here and we can start adding a little bit more detail, putting in where your wrinkles want to go. Let's go ahead and get rid of that frill real quickly. So I Alt tapped it, and then I'm just going to tap the eyeball just to turn that off. And now I can start sculpting this. This looks a little bit iffy. I'm going to kind of pull this out. Now again, if you wanted to like see inside of there, one thing you can do, let's delete higher on this one. So what we can do is like, okay, we'll keep these things capped, but maybe this one we want to have a little bit of an inset area. So we can go over here to Inset Polygroup All Region. And we can kind of pull this in. I'm going to pull in one more, and then I'm just going to go to QMesh Polygroup All. I'm going to push this down and then hold down Shift. Now let's push along those surface normals again. So now we can have kind of an inner lip. That'll kind of work. Again, if you want to make that thinner, just go along here and then hold down Shift and just kind of, again, push along that surface normal, and that'll kind of thin that out for you. So that'll look a little bit more t-shirt-like from that view at least. And still allow you to not have a bunch of inside wasted faces sitting in there, but it'll still give the illusion that there is some depth through there. Okay, so we've got that, and now I suppose we could just do another crease by polygroup. That's under your geometry crease menu, and now hit Control D, and that'll give us some real subdivision levels, and then we can go through here and start detailing this up a little bit. So standard brush, we're going to kind of cut in, and we can kind of cut through here. And I'm not going to put in seams yet because we want to get to a higher resolution before we start playing with that. Also, when you're doing cloth, you probably don't want to have symmetry turned on. You know, symmetry on cloth tends to not be perfectly symmetrical, obviously. So kind of play around that. To save some time, sometimes what I'll do is I'll do asymmetrical sculpting along the center here. And then I'll go hit X again. And when I'm up here in the corner areas or I'm on the sides here, and then I'll just sculpt symmetrically along here. We'll just say keep hitting Control D, and I'll keep inflating these areas up. I'm going to my flake brush here. If you want my hotkeys too, not that you would need them, but those are also on my Gumroad page if you wanted the custom menu as well. If you want to, you can also go in here. The standard brush, if I go into my stroke lazy radius, it's turned on to 1. I'm going to crank that up just a little bit, maybe to like 18. And now we can go through here, and we can start kind of pulling across here, a little bit smoother strokes. And then going back here and smoothing this out as well. So just kind of building up the details on this guy here. But again, not getting into the seams yet, because if I start diving in seams, if I go into like my Damien standard brush and I put a seam in here, I'm going to have to do a lot of cleanup work to make that nice and sharp again. So I'm just going to leave those alone until my resolution gets high enough to where I'm comfortable. Let's go ahead and crank up our intensity just a little bit here on our standard brush here until I get ready to kind of start diving into that. And again, the arm wrinkles, I could turn X symmetry back on, but we're just doing a really quick job here. And then neck wrinkles, I suppose we should add some of these. And wherever there's going to be like stress across, you know, these gigantic traps here, we can actually go through here and make sure that this is pulled out so it's a little bit straighter. If you really wanted to, you can go in here with H polish and hold down Alt, and you can just pull that out along the surface normal like that as well. And that'll ensure that, you know, as you're stretching this cloth across here, it'll be a little bit straighter. And just go in there with your move brush and all that good stuff. So again, we're just going to keep subdividing this up and going through here. And we'll go ahead and just keep adding these wrinkles. You can go into your Damien standard brush as well, like I was saying, and you can get a little bit deeper cuts through here. And if I'm doing any sort of cloth stuff, like tight t-shirt reference, and like look up like some Under Armour shirts or just any sort of tight cotton t-shirt, and you'll get really, really good reference. I'm not bothering to do that now, obviously, but if you're doing this for real, reference on cloth, never hurt anybody. And this guy's got kind of an awkward body too. He's got very tight armpits. I would probably do a slightly raised arm A pose for cloth. Looking back, he wasn't wearing a t-shirt. He actually had just like a cloak over him, like a rainy day kind of cloak on him. In fact, if you want to, oh, you know what? Let's see if this loads up any faster. Let's see. This will be, let's see, log in here. Don't know why that had to have sound. There we go. So me, Pavlovich. So here's some stuff. Here's the commander. We'll just check him out real quick. So while he's loading up, we'll go ahead and finish up this. And then once you get, and then we can also switch over to smooth stronger if we want to. For you guys, that'll be under your light box. So hit comma, go to the smooth tab under the brush tab, smooth folder, and then smooth strong will be in there. That's also under your smooth options. We go over that almost every live stream, where if you just go into your brush options underneath the smooth modifiers, as we can find more of that. So now at this point, I could feel comfortable, and I'll go ahead and hit X to go across X symmetry here, and then we could go through here. Also, another thing you could do is just go ahead and do uncrease all, and then when I hit Control D, that'll kind of soften out those transition edges on those creases. If you want to, you can also go in here with your smooth brush and just knock those back so they're not quite so crispy. And then you can go in here and start putting in your seams like this, and on this one as well, go into your stroke lazy radius and just put in these seams. You want to tighten those up, you can go in here with your pinch brush and just tighten those up. And you could do even fancier seams just by doing a roll. So if we go in here to brush and we go to, let's go to 4 here. What am I looking for? Weave, LMNOP, or stitch. There we go. Something like this, you could just do. Let's change that Z intensity up. There we go. So you get to get as fancy as you want with your seams, but we'll just go ahead and stick with Damien standard here. Oh, okay, so here's our guy. So this is what I was talking about. It's not really a shirt. It's kind of a cloak that goes over his arm, and it's got straps on there like so, and then he's got his little patch here. This was textured in Painter, modeled in ZBrush. This was for Substance Days last year, first annual Substance Days. There's his gun arm here. I do have this guy all recorded, so if you want to make these boots, you can go to my YouTube channel, ZBrush or Gumroad page. There's a tutorial that'll walk you through the boots, and it also has like a JPEG you can follow along step by step. But most of this stuff is pretty rudimentary here. You know, you want to make sure your UVs are laid out. This is all done in Painter, all that good stuff. So you can go check him out on my Sketchfab page, as well as a bunch of other stuff. This is all done in Painter as well, so you can see like the paint on there with the paint splatter and stuff, and the metal and all that cool stuff. Anyway, so I guess he did have pants. That was all done in Marvelous Designer as well, cleaned up in ZBrush. You know, the puckering and stuff I did in ZBrush. You can do that in Marvelous Designer, but that's just playing with it a little bit more than I'm comfortable with. So I just did this puckering. Let's go into escape here. Just manually just going through here and making a pucker alpha, and then just dragging along here to give the illusion that I had done a better claw simulation. So let's go ahead and drag this down here, and then we'll go ahead and pinch this back up. So wherever you want to put your seams, just feel free to do that. And there we go. So now we've got a shirt. Now if I want to go ahead and have this thing, you know, have a pattern through it, what I'm going to need to do is give UVs to this guy. Right now, if I go down here to texture map, UV map. So I've got a UV map here. I delete UV as grayed out because this thing doesn't have UVs on it. So I can't even go over here to like create from UV map because there are no UVs. So in order to UV this thing, we're going to go over Z plugin here, and we're going to go to UV master. Now before I start UVing this thing, what I'm going to do is, you know, make sure it's selected. I'm going to do work on clone. That's going to clone it off and automatically drop it down to a subdivision level 1, or you know, all the way down to the base subdivision level, and delete higher so I can UV it. Oops, looks like I needed to mirror and weld this thing. I did a little bit of a stupid ZModeler thing I didn't realize I did. That's what you need to be careful with when you're doing polygroup all. That's why I tend to do polygroup island, is you'll run into errors that you maybe didn't realize. But we can work with that. So one thing we can do is see how these all have really nice polygroups on here. If we go over here to polygroups, and it is symmetrical, but I think we've broken symmetry a little bit. If you don't want that, just turn symmetry off. So you can turn polygroups on. That'll go ahead and split each one of these polygroups into their own group here, and then we can just do flatten. Or I'm sorry, we should have done unwrap first. Unwrap, flatten, and now you can kind of see where this is going. Each one of these polygroups, again, has its own island, and then this is unflattened out. If we want to change those, we can go to unflatten here, and let's say we can go in here with our ZModeler brush and be like, okay, this one, let's say I want this to be one polygroup, I want this to be all one polygroup, but maybe these two here I want to be the same polygroup, so I'm going to go over here, polygroup, polyloop, tap Alt to kind of cycle through different colors, so I can see it a little bit better, and then I can just polygroup those, and I can do the same thing in here. So yeah, so as I was making this kind of and I was doing polygroup all up here, it was doing polygroup all everywhere, and I totally forgot I was doing that. So anyway, let's go ahead and we'll group these together, and then we'll group these together, and group those are already grouped together. Okay, so now that those are all polygrouped together, now when I go to unwrap and then flatten, there we go, a little bit simplified. If you want to, you can also go in here, you can hit W, and let's go ahead and let's go to transpose here. So I'm going to turn off X symmetry while we're doing this, and I'm also going to go over here to our brush auto masking, and we'll turn on mask by polygroups up to 100. So if I click on this one and I start rotating, it'll just do this shell. You can also mask. This is just geometry in here. It just looks like UVs, so you can just go through here, and you don't even have to stay within the 0 to 1. It'll automatically on export change that for you. So you kind of move this around. If you want to enable where it cuts, what we can do is go to UV master. We're going to unflatten. There's a couple different ways. You can do enable control pane. You can detract from ambient occlusion. That'll take ambient occlusion into account. If I can also go in here, I can enable control painting. We're going to attract, and all we need to do is have RGB turned on with our standard brush, let's say, and then we turn polyframe off, and we have attract. You're going to see it is blue, so it'll go ahead and attract my seams over here. Also, we need to turn off mask by polygroups because it'll keep you painting within one. So we can go through here, we can like, okay, I want to attract somewhere over here is where I want to see those cuts. And I want to protect, I want to, like if you're doing a head, you're going to be like, let's turn off lazy mouse here, we'll turn on X. I really want to make sure that these stick together because I've got like a decal or something, or graphics over here. I want to make sure there's no seam right down the middle. So we can do that. And now when we go to unwrap and then flatten, that'll make sure that your cut lines happen along there. So now I am going to go ahead and turn off X, and you can just hold down Control and tap, and that'll mask this out if you don't want to do mask by polygroups. And then you can go ahead and just rotate these things around here, and I'll just move these out of the way. So now if I hit Q to go into draw mode, and then we go to unflatten and then flatten again, you're going to see that all fits within the 0 to 1. That's fine. You can pack these as well as you want. I am perfectly fine with this. What I'm going to do is copy these UVs, go back to our original mesh here, and now I think we can just do paste UVs. That'll go ahead and paste them. So let's go double check that. Let's go to texture map, new from UV check, and that'll go ahead and show me my UVs on this thing. Perfect. So we're going to turn that texture off. And now I can just tile things through here. So if we do want to tile through here, one of the easier ways is to go ahead and do a, let's do a surface noise. We can kind of see in here a little bit better. And let's go to the noise plug, and let's see if there's like a fancy, like houndstooth or scales. We'll go ahead and just do a scales for now. If I go over here and I change the strength down, you're going to see we're getting scales, but we're getting kind of bumpy, noisy scales. Instead of doing mixed basic noise, just turn that down to 0. That'll get rid of the kind of the grainy, that's the basic noise showing through. And then you can go through here with your plugin, and you can kind of dial these up or down. If you go strength up, that'll go ahead and scale out. If you go strength down, it'll scale in. So we can like scale this up here, hit OK. And if there's any places you don't want this to show up, like in the neck area, you can hold down, we still have our polygroups in here, so you can hold down Control Shift, isolate those, and mask them. Invert that, and now wherever the mask is where you'll have that. Of course, oh, you know what? See how it's kind of stretching on the sides? We're not using UVs, so we need to go into Edit, and instead of doing 3D, we're going to choose UVs, and now it's using our UVs to go ahead and put those in there. So we'll go ahead and strengthen that up like so. And if we want to rotate these, let's see, Z offset, X angle, no, Y angle, Z angle, no. There we go. We can rotate these around a little bit, or you can rotate your UVs, that's fine too. But that'll go ahead and use our UVs here, like so. But I mean, when I UV'd this thing, I think the back is kind of stretched along, so you'd probably want to cut this apart. And you know, I would make two poly. If you ever want to cut anything, make two polygroups, and that'll allow you to really control where those polygroups are and where they are in space. But for now, I think this will be fine. Hit OK, and now you won't get stretching on the side there. So now he's fancier. Go back to Matcap Pro here, Matcap Gray. Cool. Let me check you guys out. Let's see. So Chris Nanosuit. You know what? I should have made him a tank top. Now that I look at this, that would have been much better. Best settings of sculpt a likeness. Should I have perspective on or off and local on or off? By the way, as always, you have perspective off. Yes, I do. I do mostly hard surface modeling, so I have perspective off a lot. But for likenesses, what I'll do is I'll go over here to the draw menu. And so we have perspective on, and that'll help you. I mean, assuming that they don't have a really crazy zoom setting, you're going to want perspective on, and you're also going to go through here, and your angle of view, I want to say you're going to, sometimes I drop that around to 17, and again, that just kind of depends on what their focal length was on their camera, so you should be able to kind of match that up a bit. Where a line to object comes into play is if, as you can see, as I move over here, you can kind of start seeing he starts kind of turning to the left and the right as I get closer to the edges of my canvas. You can do a line to object on, and now as you get to the left and the right, it won't do that, but then again, he's kind of off into space at a very large size, so his angle of view is doing some craziness here. So in this particular case, maybe keep him in the center of your canvas with a line to object off, and then just dial in your angle of view. I want to say somewhere around 17. Most is what I usually find useful, unless someone's doing like a macro lens type deal. Does this workflow work good with displacements, deleting inside polys, and doing Q meshing? Displacements, I'm not sure. I don't do a ton of displacement maps. Usually I do game development where, I mean, we might displacement map stuff on like terrain, but usually we want to control pretty carefully how much geometries. I mean, that's not necessarily true, but depending on how fancy you get, you can use displacements, but we don't use a ton of displacements. That I don't know. This video will be on my YouTube channel. In fact, it should be recording there right now, so I don't know when it'll be low. It's usually right after I leave. It goes ahead and it's up there. Cool. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the kind words. Glad the streams are helping you guys out. Speaker grill via nanomesh. I think that'll just be the same process as the nanomesh fishnets, if I had to guess. But even then, getting nanomesh to work on like a curved surface, yeah, I'll have to refine that picture. That was the... I'm not sure about that one. Because, yeah, in order to get a surface that has perfect poly density and converting that to nanomesh, even when you're doing something simple like fishnets on an arm, you're going to get slight variations. So what might be better than nanomesh is just tiling a texture and then offsetting that. But even then, you're going to have UV distortion. That's a good one. I'm not sure if I have a good answer for that one off the top of my head. Best workflow to make holes in clothes, torn clothes, in your opinion? More to realistic ones. That one, like if I know I'm gonna bake this, what I can do, if it is going to be like, where are we at? There we go. So let's go ahead and select this one. And just while we're working, I'm gonna go ahead and do surface noise off. So there's some, you can do some alphas, you can do some custom, like go in there and do like vector displacement alphas of all these torn up clothing and things. I don't have any of that. I'm sure you could find some. I think one of the beta testers had that. Let's go to Z-add here. Crank that intensity up just a bit. And you can just go through here and start, punching this in and then kind of ripping up the edges and stuff. Like I said, you could just drag this type of shape on and it would have all the built-in like little rippy edges in here. If you want, a killer croc I did on DC Universe Online a long time ago, and he had a bunch of torn up jeans and stuff. So basically going through here, punching in holes, and then, you could even go back in here and sculpt up like the little strings that go across. It depends on your fidelity. If you wanted to build all of this in, you would have to drop back down to subdivision level 1 and then start like Q meshing. First of all, you would have to have a thin mesh, and then you could just poke holes through with Q mesh and move the stuff around. And as you subdivided, you could pull those polygons around into a whole shape, and then it would just be a matter of detailing out with certain brushes. And I would assume you would probably have like torn cloth brushes and stuff like that that would go through here and make this torn cloth look more realistic. Obviously, it's going to look like meat chunks because I don't know what I'm doing. Hold on, RGB, turn our RGB off, colorize off. There we go. So that type of thing, and also the strings in here. If you wanted to add the strings, you could go in here to like BTO, and you could go in here and like make geometry that would string across. Or it might be even easier is brush, curve, tube. And you can drag tubes across. Let's go ahead and hit X symmetry. And we'll just make these smaller. Tap off. Tap off. There we go. And let's do a split hidden under your subtool menu. And then we'll go ahead and gizmo these things back. Oops. Let's alt tap these. And we can just, we can use the move brush too. However you want to do that. And you could flatten these things out and kind of make them look stringy if you wanted to. Let's see if we can do a little bit of that. Again, I'm not a torn clothing expert by any means. So probably better ways to do torn clothing. My idea of hell is making clothing for a living. I don't mind doing like clothing every once in a while, but for me to sit there and like model a pair of jeans and then another pair of jeans and then a bomber jacket and then another pair of jeans, I'd rather not. But and this looks more like Frankenstein string. So what I would do is, let's see, solo, hit W. Let's go ahead and hit Y to go back into transpose. And we're going to go back to, we don't need the Z plugin or the draw menu. We need our brush menu here with auto masking, mask with polygroups up to 100. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of stretch these things out. And then we'll go back to 0, go out of solo mode. And then you can go through here with your standard brush and kind of just push these in like so. Now, like I said before, if you weren't pushing it in and this had to be one solid piece, what you could do if you are going to bake this out to a transparency is you could just go through here and paint this black and this white, and you could use that to kind of dictate where your alpha is. But if you wanted it to be like a perfect shirt, then you would have to not do your shirt like this. You'd want to do actual thinness to your shirt and then punch that in as a modeling task. And then you would want to model this stuff in there. You know, just for production, I would be more inclined just to kind of do holes like this. Just easier. Like, okay, this is all torn in this way. And, you know, it's going to follow, you know, these things here are going to be kind of stressed along here. And then you can chew out the bottom of this edge here. So now he's not quite so fancy anymore, is he? But we can also, he still has UVs, so we can still go here to his noise, and those will show up just fine. I tried to steal and place a polygroup by hitting tab and shift like he told us, but it didn't work. It's making another polygroup. That should work. All it would be is cylinder, edit, make polymesh 3D. So we go through here and we hold down Alt and we're painting. If you let go of Alt, that'll make a new polygroup, and then you can tap and make a new polygroup. Now if you wanted to steal this green polygroup into this purple, hold down Alt, start painting. If you let go of Alt, it's going to be making a new polygroup. Tap Shift, that will inherit this polygroup, and now you can paint. I never let go of my Wacom tablet, so now I'm painting with that polygroup. If I want to steal some of this purple, hold down Alt, start painting on the purple, tap Shift, and now it's inherited the purple. You can do that manually as well. You can go through here, hover over face, do polygroup, a single poly, and now when you do that, you can color with purple. If you want to color with green, tap here, tap Shift, and that'll inherit the green. Or you can also go through, again, Alt, paint, let go of Alt, and actually, start Alt painting. Since we inherited the green, it's just going to start painting with the green here. But if we let go of Alt and then just tap Alt, that'll give us new polygroups. And then again, if we want to start painting the green, hold down Alt, tap Shift, that'll inherit the green. Alt, tap Shift, that'll inherit the purple. And then, but again, also polygroup a single poly. You can tap Alt to cycle through different polygroups and then paint new ones. Or I want to paint a red one here, so I'm going to tap Shift to inherit the red ones. That's all that is. It's just a little bit faster to start Alt painting over blue and tapping Shift. So that way when we start Alt painting, we know these are going to be blue. We start Alt painting on here, tap Shift, that's going to inherit red, and now we can Alt paint with red. Just a little bit faster. Yes, fancy zombie shirt. 28 is, I think, what the human eye would be for angle of view. That's a good point. But if you're matching photo reference, it'll be pretty dependent on the focal length. But yeah, if you're doing live modeling, then that'll be a little bit closer, I think. That sounds good. I'll trust you on that one. Any way to zremesh and keep your poly paint? Yeah, you would zremesh, and then when you do project all, it'll ask you if you want to keep the poly paint, because if you're doing, usually when I zremesh, I'm going to duplicate the object off, and I'm going to zremesh that to a lower resolution. I'm going to hit Control D and project all, Control D, project all, Control D, project all, to project back to my original high poly. If your high poly has poly paint on it, it'll ask you, hey, do you want to project your poly paint too? Just hit yes, and then it should project both of those back. So you'll get your poly paint onto, you're basically transferring your vertex color from your high res to your low res zremesh as you subdivide. Best to detail textures like skin or scales. Detailing skin and the color would just be grabbing, using Spotlight to kind of paint through reference photos that were hopefully taken with polarized lenses so that you don't get any specular for just base diffuse or base color. If you want to hand paint it, you can. There's nothing wrong with that either. As far as texturing scales, probably the same thing. I kind of go over that a little bit in my YouTube channel, my Z reptile. We go through and we texture him in ZBrush, and then we also texture him in Painter. But I don't know if that's the best. I wouldn't say go buy it because I don't know that I'm the best scale painter. But how do you make a cavity map? That would be under masking. So if we go grab this dude here, And we go into, I mean, you can also make cavity map. We were going to talk about the multi-map exporter, but under Z plugin, multi-map exporter, you can create a cavity map based on this, and I think that's just going to transfer this mask by cavities to a texture for you. So if we do mask by cavity, let's go to flat color here. Mask by cavity, cavity profile, blur down to 0, intensity, cavity profile. There we go. You can see he's a pretty high detailed guy, but you can start seeing we're getting this cavity mask in here. You can also go to mask adjust. There we go. So a mask adjust, you can do the adjust profile, but that'll kind of give you, you can do AO, you can mask by AO here, and you can also mask by cavity. Mask by AO might take a little bit. We'll see how that goes. There we go. So here's our AO map, and of course you can do the mask adjust, or there's also mask scan distance and aperture and stuff like that that you can kind of play with, but mask by cavity, and then mask adjust as you see fit. And if you wanted to transfer that, maybe if you go like texture map, create new from, you might have to do like a fill color, fill object. We'll go back to basic material, or we'll go back to matte cap gray. I guess I mean, this wouldn't be your cavity map that this would bake out. This probably has a lot better settings on here. Export cavity maps. You can just turn that on. But something like that, it would do it a little bit better than I did. Let me see. Let me turn off that poly paint here. Cool. Cavity map. Tractor says your model fingers are bend like snake. I'll take your word for it. If I do holes in the first level division, I can just retopo on it. You can freeze subdivisions on that type of thing. So if we do, let's say we have a model like this, you can go down to, let's see if I can get this to work. Subdivision level 1, you can freeze subdivision levels here. Let's go ahead and turn off that damn surface noise. So if you wanted to go through here and make model changes, like you wanted to punch through the bottom here, let's go ahead and do Q mesh single poly here, and we can just go ahead and Q mesh this forward. So we're we have our subdivision levels frozen, so we're just making modeling changes on it. So we can go ahead and cut through these. Now I don't know what it's doing to my UVs necessarily, but we can make modeling changes here. We can also go through here and like alt paint these ones and then Q mesh this out. So we can do stuff like this, and then when we go to turn free subdivision levels off, what it should do is go ahead and transfer back all my details as well as update my model to inherit those changes. So you're going to see when I dynamesh this out, if I go back through, I still have my subdivision level 1 that's fine, and then these just get my details transferred back. There's manual ways to do that, but free subdivision is a little bit faster way to kind of achieve that. And then you can go through here and you might have to do a little bit of cleanup. But now, like you said, you do have this stuff already kind of built in. So we got our zombie guy here, and then you could go through here and still have subdivision levels, so you can go through here and be like, okay, I want to move these apart like this, and then as you go up, you'll still maintain your subdivision levels. So you can use free subdivisions to kind of get around that a little bit. Oops. So I make groups, loops, not add an extra poly group in between loops. Groups, loops, not add an extra loop in between groups. That I'm not so sure about. There might be a better option in there. So like edge loop mask border will just make a loop around where the mask is. You can do edge loop. If you isolate this one, that'll give you an edge loop. Groups loops, if you do a loop of 1, no polish, that'll add a poly group, and the question is, Groups loops not add an extra polygroup in between loops. So we did like 3 loops, and it's giving polygroups in here. I guess what you could do, I mean, this isn't an ideal solution. Is there an option for that? Groups loops without? No, but I mean, you could do this, isolate them, Control Shift, and then Control W to make those all one polygroup. Or if you didn't want any polygroups at all, you can do just grab this one, and then if you know you did 3 loops, just do Control Shift X to expand 1, 2, 3, and then Control W, and that'll make that all one polygroup. That's a good one. I'm not sure about that one. Doesn't seem like it, but I could be wrong. I heard there are a few jobs, and if I miss your question, I apologize. I've got a list over here. We're kind of running. We got about 20 more minutes. So I'll head back up there. And again, if I miss your question, just keep shouting it out, and hopefully I'll get to it. I heard there are a few jobs, character modeler, so that you had to be the beast on it. Is it possible to find a job as a junior with 0 experience but nice portfolio? The good news about our industry is if you have a kick-ass portfolio tailored to the companies you want to work for, probably you'll get a job, regardless of where you went to school, regardless of experience, depending on the studio. But if you have a really, really solid portfolio, you're good. But of course, having a solid portfolio geared towards exactly who you want to work for is a lot easier said than done. A lot of it's luck too, and there aren't a lot of character jobs. Like I worked on an MMO where we had like 4.5 character guys for most of the project, and we're talking tens and thousands of character assets created. So usually the jobs are in environments and props, which there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being an environment modeler or a prop modeler. That's where the numbers are. So, and in characters, really modeling props is no different than most character modeling, in my experience. You know, working on, like Halo, I didn't model bodies. I modeled a ton of armor, So an armor, making a shoulder pad is no different than making a fire hydrant. Really, it's just observation and concept and design and all that stuff. So hard surface modeling is hard surface modeling. So like is weapons modeling, all that good stuff. If you're a great weapons modeler, I would say you'd probably be a pretty good armor modeler. There's, not a whole lot of difference there. Merge subtools while maintaining the individual UVs of the subs. Yes. So when you go to merge, just have UV turned on, and then I'll go ahead and save those. Now, if you have overlapping UVs on those, you can only have one texture set, UV set per subtool. So if those UVs are overlapping, it might give you some weirdo results, or they'll have overlapping UVs, so just be aware of that. Want to split a single dragon tool into 50 random segments while keeping the same dragon shape? Yes, I would actually use Houdini for that. I'm not sure how I would split a single dragon into random shapes. I guess you could do a nano mesh with a random scatter and have that live Boolean out your shapes. That's an interesting one. I'd have to see that. Eating memory on your C drive. Eating memory on my C drive, junction to reroute the quick save location on the drive. That I'm not sure about. That might either be a ticket, support ticket, or a hashtag ask ZBrush. They might have a better answer for you. I'm not sure about the technical stuff. Too fast for non-English speaking people. What you can do on YouTube is you can go into the settings. Here, I'll do a tutorial on that. So, YouTube. And so I'm live now. If you go to my playlists here, and we go to any of my live episodes, where are those at? Live stream full episodes. And we're going to watch some full episodes here. And you're like, this guy, what an asshole. He speaks way too fast. Go over here to your speed. Drop that down to like 0.25. And then that'll kind of slow it down. I guess you don't get sound with that. You can also, okay, do 0.5. I forget which. It's kind of a translucent shader here. It'll make me sound like I'm a little bit drunk, but that's probably the best you're going to get out of me. It's hard for me to speak slow. How do you render out fog and composite in Photoshop? Usually that's like a depth mask. For me anyways. It would basically be like, let me go grab And when you go to export this, so if we do a BPR render, oh, it's going to ZBrush, or KeyShot, damn it. Okay, so we'll let that go to KeyShot. So in the meantime, though, we'll go to render, turn off KeyShot, we'll do a BPR render. When you do a BPR render, you can go over here to your render settings, and then you can go over here to render properties, and you can tell it, oh, here's your render pass, and then here's your depth pass. So you can use this to do fog. Like the further away it gets, the darker it is. So you can use that to dial in fog in Photoshop. You could use lens blur, but that's more of a focal. That's just more of like a focal distance lens blur. You would use this white to black as a. I'm not sure what you would use. I don't do a whole lot of fog rendering. But that is the way I would do it, as a depth grab. You could also just grab your depth just by going here to alpha, grab dock, and then I'll go ahead and grab this. So as you rotate this guy around, you're going to see if we go like down to the top, this is going to be the widest part, like this. So when you do your BPR render, that'll go ahead and grab your depth here. And then you can just export this out as your depth pass. You can also, under the Z plugin, you can go to the new ZBrush to Photoshop, and you can just send all of this stuff over to Photoshop, and it'll grab your depth grab as well, and it'll kind of organize it for you. But again, I'm not sure. I guess you could like overlay it and dial the opacity down and do that kind of foggy look, and then put some noise in it, I suppose. Clouds. Cool. And you know what's funny is when I go to when I watch video tutorials on YouTube, doesn't matter who they are, who's doing it, I almost always watch YouTube videos the exact opposite way, which is I'll go to a head here, and this head I got if you hit the comment 2x speed. You just open up the demo I have here. We'll have a little bit more fun with this one. So I'm going to go to perspective mode, turn off the floor. This is how I watch YouTube. I think it already has tutorial videos geometry here, because I hate slow people. I'm trying to get the information. Topology that outlines the muscle instead of just making loops. Is it worth it? Like when the pectoralis and abs have their own topology outlines and such. Abs, not so much. I've never come into a situation where I've needed like abs to be separated out. I think that's more, I don't know. If you really get into it, you can do that. The pectoralis, usually it's more of a sheath. It's more of like if you're going to retopologize this guy, it would be more of, let me paint on this guy a little bit here. Let's see, color, fill object. So if I was going to retopologize this young gentleman here, I would put in, it would be more of like this shape is where I would put my dividing line. I wouldn't put like this kind of topology, seems silly to me. I think just for being able to move the arms above the head nicely, I would probably give it more of this shape here and make sure that these are kind of nice, like so. And then yeah, so I would do something more like akin to this rather than having a bunch of geometry sit there and radiate out, you know, and even then trying to resolve that with like your deltoid muscle. Yeah, following the muscles isn't necessarily the best. I mean, take this is just my opinion. I don't know anything about anything, so my opinion would be following the muscles wouldn't necessarily get you a whole lot. The only reason you'd want to add like muscles like this for your abs is if you were gonna like animate your abs in like a piston fashion, I suppose. I'm not really sure. Again, I could be wrong. There could be an amazing reason to have your abs like this, but probably I would just generally follow the shape, and the normal map is going to carry that information. There might be cinematic reasons why you would want your abs to be all modeled in and stuff, but I don't think that's necessary for mostly of what I've seen. Ryuin says that you can make fog directly in Photoshop using the cloud generators below the Gaussian blur. I think you generate clouds in a new layer and dim out with opacity filters and such. Yeah, use that in conjunction with the depth so that it gets foggier as your object gets further away, and I think you're golden. Cool. Model rivalry games, I mean your shirt overlapping on your character is the right way to make a shirt. Sure. It kind of depends on how your engine's set up. So, you know, if there are claw simulations in game, but like, are you like if I was to make this a game character, I'd probably retopologize his shirt in with his body and just bake that out. Or if it had to be like a character swap system where the body's in here, I would have a system where the body could be alpha'd out, and then there wouldn't be penetration issues. But then I'd want to make sure that my edge loops kind of match the body on the shirt, so I'd probably transfer most of the topology from the body to the shirt just to make sure those points lined up for weighting purposes. It gets complicated and boring. Not my favorite thing in the world to do, but it's kind of... Oh yes, oh yeah, Dynamesh lips, we'll get to that in a second. Actually, I have done that. Give me a second here. If you want to do, go to, this is my Pixelogic stream here. Go to the very bottom and we do mouth bags. Oops. We do mouth bags here. And then under mine, if you go to the live stream highlights. Gosh, I hate trackpads so much. I'm a mouse user for life. I cannot stand laptop trackpads. Go to my live stream highlights. If you scroll down to the very bottom, I go through just the basic anatomy modeling, and then I go through and make a mouth bag. It's basically just a Dynamesh subtractive mesh, and then zremeshing, and then keeping polygroups. And we can do it really quickly here. Let me see. Tool. That'll walk you through it a little bit slower, but at the end of the day, if we go over here to project, let's do a quick save. So if we want to put a mouth bag in this chap here, all I would do is go to, you know, this is a Dynamesh head. I'm going to go to insert a sphere here, and now this is his mouth bag. Let's hit Y so we can go back to our gizmo here. So this is his mouth bag. I'm going to go ahead and split mask points, go into transparency mode so you can kind of see where this mouth bag is. If you want to stretch it out this way, that's fine. If you want to make it wider, that's fine as well. And then we need to match this up with his lips here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to control drag to make this a Dynamesh. And now we can go through here. Let's drop that just a tad. And let's turn on, I think this doesn't really matter. So we can hold down control. I guess we do have to turn on Ghost. So turn on Ghost, and we're just going to kind of mask where we want that lip hole to be, and we're just going to match that up with the face. So I'm going to Control W to make that a polygroup, and then Control Shift, and then we will hold down W. Oops. On a solo mode here. Basically what I'm doing is control tapping this polygroup here, and then control dragging this out to make a new polygroup. But first what we can do is we can polish that group border. Actually, with this masked, before we polygroup it, let's go over here to geometry, edge loop mask border. That'll give us a little bit of a smoother outline. And now what we can do is hit W, control tap, control drag, and that'll go ahead and drag that out. Now feel free to, like, you know, move this closer to where the lips are going to go. This is going to be your lip hole. You can go through here before you do this, and you can kind of pinch the corners of the lips down a little bit and move this thing around however you want. But now that we have this, what we can do is here's our lips down below. We're going to make this subtractive mesh. We've got our head here. I'm going to hit Control W, make this all one polygroup. Make sure Control W, the head's all one polygroup. When I merge these down and then Dynamesh this, now we have a mouth bag in here that's all one polygroup, and then the head that's all one polygroup. So now it's just a matter of, let's go ahead and smooth out these lips a little bit. You can make these lips as good or as fancy as you want. In fact, I would go through here and maybe use your inflate brush to kind of inflate those lips back up a little bit. And sculpt them out however you want. But now that I've got that mouth bag in there, now you just need to go through here and zremesh this with your polygroups turned on. So if I had a bunch of detail, I'd want to duplicate this thing off. And then we're going to go into our zremesh properties here. And then we're going to say keep groups. We can smooth groups a little bit. Target polygon count, we'll just do half. Adaptive size, we'll turn that down a little bit. And then we'll zremesh. So that is going to smooth our groups out along here. We have X symmetry turned on, I think. So then when we get our new zremesh here, it should work fine. So that's all I would do as far as the mouth bag stuff. Any jobs allow you to do character design and modeling in the same job in the industry? That's what I do. A little bit, but that kind of depends on the company, and they're probably not as common. But I think it's getting more like that. Most concept artists do modeling and design, so concept is probably your best bet. But even character modelers, they do it as well. So at this point, you could just do half, because that is pretty high still. Keep letting that go here. How to generate our own material from scratch. I don't. I mean, you can go in here to your basic materials, and this is just going to be going into your material settings. If you want to do a deeper dive into materials, go to my YouTube channel, and there is a thing called ZBrush Guide Stylized Rendering. And I go under zbrushguides.com, Pablo Munoz Gomez's stuff, his PDF. You can download that for free and follow through. And that'll take you a little bit more into the material properties. Yes, ZBrush Photoshop CC is a default plugin, so you won't have to download that from their website. Did you model the base of that character, or did you use some model as the base? This character here, okay, so there's ZRemesh half. Let's keep ZRemeshing this half. So as it gets lower and lower, it's going to go faster and faster. And if you want to ever do a different midpoint algorithm, hold down Alt and ZRemesh. Oh, you know what? Is it not? Oh, you know what? You can't do Alt on a custom menu and hit ZRemesh. I think you have to go down here and hit Alt on the actual ZRemesh button. There you go. So it's a different algorithm here. But you can see we still have our mouth bag in here. We still have our lips in here. And we ZRemesh this. So now if we want to, get our details back, it's just a matter of making sure both of these are on. Going to Project All under your subtool menu, Control D, Project All, Control D, Project All, Control D, Project All. We don't need this one anymore. And now we've got our head here with subdivision history that you can go in and clean up. Oops, I should have checked that first. I had to go in here. All that would be a Z project cleanup. But since this is a kind of a simple area, we just go in here with our clay brush and project that out. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. Go watch the live stream videos. That'll walk you through more options on the ZRemesher to get a little bit better flow, but that's the basic idea. Under this guy here, if you want to see the making of this guy, just not in video form necessarily, but in picture form, go to my ArtStation page. Let me launch you here. Typed in fart station. My profile. Again, sorry, I am going to get a new setup soon before next week, so I won't be quite as haphazard. There you go. So now if I go to sign in, my profile here, you can go here, and this will walk you through. Basically what I started with this guy is almost nothing. He was started out as Blobby McBlobberson. Yeah, this was his first step. He looked like this, and I think he was just a Dynamesh blob, along with his Dynamesh blob armor. Just kind of going through here. I stole some stuff from my GDC female, like her handgun and her little holster. And then I put in a big arm like this. And then the gun pieces I stole from, I guess I can show you that too. So here's so this lady right here, I took her little flashbangs and her handgun. I think she had her handgun's on the other side of her body. I took that. For the insert brushes on the machine, I think I've got miscellaneous. I did ZBrush beta for 4R7, and so you can see this gun right here I modeled in using ZModeler. So I just took a bunch of these pieces and kind of reused them as the gun arm, and I forgot I had done that, and you can see the transition. Oh, there's the boot tutorial as well. So you can see the transition I made where I was trying to figure out like how I want to model this gun, like so, and it looks like this. And then, so there's where the gun is there. And then eventually, as I start remeshing this thing, I'm like, you know what, I got a bunch of pieces I can pull from. So I went through and just grabbed a bunch of pieces and then utilized those a bunch in my gun arm to make it the process go a little bit faster. So hope that makes sense. Oh, if that's the base model you're talking about, if you're talking about the anime head, yeah, that's under the project demo anime head. And the demo anime head, if you go to my YouTube channel, I linked, is where we made the Batman cowl in the previous episode. So I went ahead and edited those so they're a little bit nicer. So now here's the 3-step video on how to sculpt this anime head up to be a little bit more human. And again, if you want to add a mouth bag to this head, you can certainly do that. And then making the Batman cowl and then rendering the Batman cowl as well. We go through like stylized rendering a little bit, and then we go into KeyShot rendering the Batman head. So, and that was all using that anime head. Old move tool, bend with Alt key. Yeah, that's a fun one. So I'm not sure if that's. I remember when I was at Pixel or SIGGRAPH 2013, Fair showed me that one. So if you hit Y and you have the old transposed line, if you hold down Alt and move these things, you can bend. So you can have your anchor point set here. Now this one's going to just pull straight down, but you can kind of set anchor points in here, and if you hold down Alt, it'll bend along where you have these things kind of positioned. So you can position it down here, and you can kind of bend through here. I don't use it a whole lot now that we have the new bend deformers, but that's another really useful one as well. Cool, cool. What do you think about kit bashing? Does it count like some sort of cheat? No, not at all. Now, I would say that if all you're doing is shaking a bunch of kit bash pieces into an outline or into a form and going, I modeled this, or you're taking, pick and choose. If you're making awesome designs with kit bash pieces, in fact, if you're a hard edge modeler, I would say make your own kit bash library. Absolutely. That should just be something you have. I need to get on that a little bit more than I have in the past, but yeah, nothing wrong with kit bashing. Certainly if you're doing concepting. Is drawing sketching still important for being a modeler? Absolutely. I usually end up seeing the opposite, where people are great illustrators but not necessarily great modelers. But, for sure draw and study all that good stuff. Yes, my dog she just finished eating her dinner. She got fed just a minute ago by my wife. Still necessary to reproject for all subdivision levels instead of only the highest one. Reproject for all subdivision levels instead of only the highest one. Oh, the only reason I do that is for speed and accuracy. If you have a low res and a high res, and you go Control D, Control D, Control D, Control D, project all, the envelope might have to reach a little further, and you might have more errors, and it might take a little bit longer, I've found, as opposed to Control D, project all, Control D, project all. As you're subdividing up, it's projecting pretty fast, and it's also getting that envelope closer and closer and closer to your final result. So that's why I do that. You don't have to, but you've been doing great tutorials for a while now. Thank you for saying that. What's your favorite thing about making these tutorials? It keeps me consistently creating content, honestly. And I don't mind getting in here and answering questions and stuff like that. It's fun for me too. And even going through other people's models like I did in a Pixelogic's channel, that's fun for me as well. I wish I could devote more time to it, but only so much time in the day. In fact, we're coming up on an end here. Let me go through the last, let's see, multimap import and export. The multimap exporter we touched on, all that is a Z plugin, and you basically just choose, as long as you have UVs, you can go through here and do the multimap export. Just choose what you want to export and create all maps, your map size. It's pretty self-explanatory. Here's your export options for like your cavity map if you wanted to change some of that information we were talking about earlier. That would be that. Dynamesh mount bag we talked about. UV mesh we talked about. Crisis nanosuit. Oh yeah. Give me a second here. Oh, I guess we don't need KeyShot. That was taking up some room. Let me see if we go here. File station here. And then let's go to transfer and ZBrush tech suit details. Download. And then ZBrush, load tool. I'm assuming, and again, it's been a while since I've looked at Crisis, but it would remind me of, wait for it. So her tech suit is basically that, and I go through the making of this on mostly the Pixelogic channel. So those links I sent earlier, we do the Pixelogic workshop, and her. If I start removing some of this, I think we'll see it a little bit better. So we can Alt tap these things. This is the nano mesh. This is what I would use for like the speaker grill if I was going to do that. But you know, again, it's going to have varying degrees of success. There we go. So we can start removing some of this gear here, and this will just get back down to our base tech suit. So you start seeing that a little bit better. Yeah, so the making the, and all it really was just taking her body, dividing up where it wanted to go. You could try to use zremeshed for this. I wasn't able to, so I just manually went in and Z-sphere retopologized it. So if I go down to Subdivision level 1, this is basically what I topologized, and then I use panel loops to bump these up into those shapes, and then got that little smooth fall off there. So that kind of tech suit. And this is all, yeah, none of this was Marvelous Designer. This is all just kind of put in there. She's not quite done yet, but we're getting there. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and log off. Thanks, everybody. Whoops, type on the wrong screen here. Cool, perfect. I'm glad that made sense. So I'll link you one more time to this is going to be my Pixelogic work, and just go all the way to the very bottom, and then you'll see as I start building her up where we get into the tech suit stuff, and I explain that. And then also on my playlists, on my live stream episodes, full episodes, or the live stream highlights, there might be more information in there, but I think the Pixelogic one is what you're looking for. Cool. Thanks, everybody. I will see you next Tuesday morning on Pixelogic's channel, I believe. What's today? Today's the 31st. So Tuesday, yeah, Tuesday okay, oh boy. So Tuesday the 5th, I will be on Pixelogic's channel. You won't see me again. You're not going to see me next Thursday, I don't think, or the Thursday after, and possibly the Thursday after that. I might be taking 3 weeks where I'm not going to show up, but check out my YouTube channels. That'll keep you occupied, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.